Okay, let's create this forest material. So first we need to import materials. We need to import textures to create this forest landscape material. So in the game assets that you have here, you should see this forest landscape folder. And this is like a retired Unreal Marketplace asset that was free, but it's no longer available. So I just downloaded it from my previous projects and I will just give you this folder. In order to import this into Unreal, we need to go to Content Drawer, select our content folder and right click and show in Explorer. And now that we are inside content folder, we can grab this forest landscape and move it to this content folder right here. And here you should see this forest landscape folder appear. And here we have everything. We have these materials that we will use, and we have textures, and we will use some of these textures for our landscape material. So now that we have these textures, let's create this material. And we can go to main and levels, and we can create this material here, or we can go to our forest landscape folder from game assets, and we can create this material over here. So I think I'll do it here in this forest landscape. So let's just right click and create a material. And let's call this material underscore ground. Oh, ground, because this will be our ground material. So let's open it up and let's see what we can do with this material. This node right here is our output. And here we have, for example, base color. We will plug a texture for base color. Here we will plug a texture for metallic. If we have specular, we will plug specular. Here we have normal map, for example. So let's see what we can do with this. So let's go to our content drawer, and here we have texture inside this forest landscape folder. We go to 4K and we have some textures for different materials. Here we have like a ground, here we have more grass, here we have like half grass, half ground, but I want to go with this ground material. We can grab it here and plug RGB to base color, and now you can see that this material is actually applied to this sphere. This sphere is just a preview, but we can also click here, so it will appear on the plane, but if we click here, it will appear on a cube, which we can actually see how it will look on the ground. You can see that this material reflects a little bit too much. So what we can do is we can go to roughness and bump it up to 10. And now this material is less reflective and it works more like a ground, which we want. Let's just save this. But we also see that we have more textures for this specific FL ground 1. We have 4 different textures. So this one is a normal map, which we can grab and plug this into normal. And this will make the material look more 3D. You can see it just adds a little bit of depth to this material. And this one, AO, means ambient occlusion. We can grab this as well and plug this into ambient occlusion, and it will also change our material a little bit. And we just need these 3 textures for this ground material. Now if we will go to level game, we can switch to selection. We click on the landscape and we will scroll down a little bit where we have landscape material. Now we can search for our material ground that we've just created, and if we select it, you can see this material has appeared on our landscape. And if we press play, oh, first of all, we are spawning underground, so we need to fix that. We need to locate our player's start, press F to find it, press W, move it up, and press end on the keyboard so it will snap to the floor. Now we can press play and see how this looks, and we can see that this material is working correctly. However, it's not looking the best because we can see the material repeating a lot. That's the first issue. So let's see what we can do with that. Let's go back to our material ground, and here we have something called UVs, and this UVs is how much this material will replicate. And we can type some value here, but we can also just use a node called texture coordinate. We can plug this here, here, and here because we need to scale all of these textures. Now, if we expand this, you can see we have this tiling, and this basically means how much the texture will repeat. So 1 is not looking great, so we can decrease that so the texture will get a little bit bigger. We can type 0.15 for example, and same here, 0.15, and now you can see this texture is a lot bigger. And if we save that and go back to level game, you can see this material looks way better, and again you can see it repeat a lot. But if we go to first person, that is not that visible. If we look at the ground, it looks still fine because this is a high resolution texture, and even though it is scaled a lot, it still looks good. But if you look like somewhere else, it doesn't look that bad. Obviously, if you will try to find the tiling, you will find it. But when we will add a lot of trees later, this tiling problem will just disappear. However, we only have one material on the entire landscape, and we don't want that because we want to draw a path for our player. So we need to do some changes inside this material ground, but also in the landscape here. But let's do the material first. We will use something called landscape layer blend. So let's search for landscape layer blend, and it looks like that. If you click on this node, you can see we have some layers. I mean, we have 0 layers, but we can create some new layers. So let's just click this plus icon right here, and we can now name this layer somehow. So the first layer will be just ground, because this first layer will represent this material that we've set up here. And we don't need to change any other settings. And now we want to create second layer. So let's just click plus icon, and we will rename this to path. And now, as you can see, this node now has 2 different pins for layer ground and layer path. Now we can plug this base color texture to ground. Now plug this ground into base color, and as you can see, it changed a little bit. Don't worry about that. Once we're done with setting up this material, it will look completely normal once again. But we can duplicate this node twice because we need to do the same thing for the normal map and the ambient occlusion. Plug this here. All right, and now you can see our material went completely black, but we don't worry about that. Before we go to the level game and apply this material and see what happened with our landscape, we can finish setting up this material by adding the path material. And we could use some of these textures, that will be completely fine, but I found that the material from our starter content, textures, and here we have gravel, and I think this gravel looks pretty cool. So let's just grab this gravel base color and plug this into base color layer path. Do exactly the same thing with normal map because this gravel also has its normal map. So let's move it here, plug this into landscape layer blend for normal, and we can also plug this tiling so it will also look it will also be a little bit bigger. And this ground gravel does not have the ambient occlusion map, so we just don't apply it here. Now, if we save this and go back to our level game, you can see our material is completely broken, but there's an easy fix for that. We need to go to paint, and now on the bottom of this paint tab, we have layers where we can add different layers. So let's just click plus, and now we just need to type exactly what we did here, ground and path. So the first one will be ground, press enter, and now you can see that this material is already assigned. And now when I press plus again, and I rename this layer to path, you can see we have a gravel, which does not work correctly. So in order to fix that, we can modify this gravel texture slightly. We can grab from RGB and type multiply. Now we can hold 3 and click anywhere. It will create a vector of 3. So this is like RGB basically. Now we can set it to white and plug it here into this multiply. And now plug this multiply into layer path. And now when we save this, go back here, we can see that our path is working fine. But there's one more thing that we need to do because we have this angry warning. There are target layers with no layer info. And this layer info is needed for those materials to actually work. As you can see, there is no layer info assigned yet. And to fix that, all we need to do is just click this plus icon. It will create layer info and just select weight blended layer because that's what we've set up here in this landscape layer blend, weight blend. So we can go here and select this weight blended layer. And we don't need to rename this, and we will save this in levels folder. It will automatically create a new folder for level game shared assets. And I don't rename this. I just leave it as it is. So let's just save. And now let's do the same thing with the path material. Save. And now we have these two different layer infos. Let's save everything. And now you can see we don't have any warnings. And now we can select our ground material, for example. We can make our brush a little bit bigger. And now we can actually draw our new material, paint our new material. And now we are back in the same spot. We have our ground material assigned to the landscape, and it looks exactly the same. But now with this setup, we can reduce the brush size and, for example, select this path, where we can now draw this path over this ground material. And that will be really, really useful.